Hello and welcome to this special question and answer session specifically on lupins. Just take a look at them. If you grow these plants at home, you know the beauty that's attached to them, and the bees and the pollinators just love them. And if you've never grown them before, stick around because I'm going to give you loads of information on how you can succeed with this plant. Now, I've searched Google once again to find the most looked for questions about this fantastic plant. Before I begin, please could you give the video a thumbs up and share it with any family or friends who might like to grow these beautiful plants, and please subscribe to my channel because there's loads of great videos coming up. I'd also like to know if you've got any questions about lupins or any of your other favourite plants. Please add them into the comments section below and I'll do another video covering those topics. Okay, let's answer some of those questions. The first one of the most popular questions is, where are lupins native to? Well, there are several hundred species of lupins, and most of these are native to North and South America. However, there are a few varieties native to North Africa and parts of the Mediterranean too. Are lupins perennials? Well, yes, lupins are perennials. They just come up in the garden every year. And in the term of the plant's lifespan, I expect them to last for approximately 6 years. However, if you grow them from seed, they could last even longer. What generally happens is the plant drops some of its seed, and as it gets older, younger plants germinate from that seed, so you get fresher plants. So it looks as if it's the same lupin, but it is in fact the babies from the original. Which garden style are lupins best for? Most professional garden designers would include lupins in formal borders and gravel gardens, or containers, or even cottage gardens are incredibly popular to have lupins in. Their flower shape adds interest and depth. Just look at it. Are lupins easy to grow? Well, the answer is yes. It's great news because they're so beautiful. Lupins are not only easy to grow, but they also add to the borders as well. The secret is growing them in the right spot, which brings me nicely on to the next question. Where do lupins grow best? Well, lupins love to be in an open, sunny position, don't we all? They like to be in well-drained, neutral to slightly acidic soil, and you can grow them either in borders or you can grow them in containers as well. How do you grow lupins? Well, if you're planting a container-grown lupin that you purchase from the garden centre, then plant them at the same depth as they are in the container. Not too deep, not too shallow, but just where the soil is in the container. Lupins grow better in borders than containers, as sometimes they get a little bit of lack of water in a container if you forget to water it. But the right care, they can look pretty good in pots. I suggest planting them at the back of a bright and sunny border with fresh compost, and water them in well, certainly in the first year or two, to make sure they just send out roots and get established. And you can also stake them because sometimes these flowers heads are really heavy, and if you put a bamboo cane, it just gives that extra support. So how do you grow lupins from seeds? Well, this is a great question. The first thing you need to do is take time to choose the seeds. You can buy them from garden centres in a variety of different colours, and you can choose your own colour scheme that you want. The main thing is you can look on the front of the packets to see how they're put together, and you may combine different colours to create different hues. You may find that large seeds have a tough coating, so I'd nick the shell with a little knife, really just give a chance for the seed to grow out, or soak them in water 24 hours before sowing, so it can just really penetrate inside the seed. Having done your seed preparation, they then need to be sown into fresh, peat-free compost early to mid-spring, and they should germinate, with a little bit of warmth within 10 to 14 days. Growing lupins from seed is a challenge, of course, as they don't really, when you try to plant them up, you don't want them to rot if it's too damp, and they don't like to have their roots too disturbed. Who does? So it makes transplanting them a little fiddly, but you should really persist with it, because germinating from seed is a special connection with the plant, and if you grow lupins like that, are perfect. Now, lupins will also self-seed by their seed pods at the end falling down and dropping down and taking root and germinating into the ground. Now, how big do lupins grow? Well, this really depends on the type of lupin that you have, because there are two real size types. There's border lupins like the one behind me here, and then there are tree lupins as well, and they grow to different heights. Border lupins will typically grow to about 1.5 meters, where tree lupins, they can grow up to 2 meters tall. Really spectacular. Now, how long do lupins flower for? You should see your first flush of flowers in late May through to June, and if you're lucky, the lupin will continue flowering until early August. Now, are lupins good for bees? Of course they are. They're flying all over the place when lupins are around, making them ideal for pollinator-friendly gardens. And as a beekeeper myself, and I confirm my honeybees are just over the far side there, that they particularly enjoy lupins. Are lupins frost hardy? Well, this is one of the grey areas. It's a yes and no answer. Typically, lupins are hardy in the UK if grown in free, draining soil in a sunny spot. However, there are different types of lupins that have different tolerances to the cold. So make sure you do your research beforehand. If you have lupins in containers and they are slightly susceptible to cold and frost, it's a little bit easier for you because you can protect them by moving the containers into sheltered spot during late autumn and winter. So the hardiness of lupins, general ones that you can put in the border to leave, they keep growing through. If it's a particularly hard winter, you can offer a little bit of protection around the base. What colours do lupins come in? Lupins come in a lovely array of colours, from whites, pinks, reds, yellows, blues and purples. Do lupins flower in the first year? Well, if you buy a big potted one from a garden centre, sometimes you actually buy them in flower. They're perfect to go straight into the border. If they're younger plants, they may take a bit of time to establish themselves in the bed, grow some foliage, generate some energy, and then flower the following year. Do lupins need a lot of water? They require regular watering in their first summer, of course, to help the roots send out and establish themselves in the ground. However, it is worth being wary of them not wanting to sit in damp, sodden soil. They don't like their feet in the wet. Do lupins change colour? No, they don't change colour, although you may think this is happening when they start to self-seed. When you start to grow seedlings, they often revert to more blue and purple colour, but this is not the same as the plant changing colour. So, your red lupins look paler or more purple after a couple of years. It's probably a new plant that has grown from seeds underneath. Do you need to deadhead lupins? Well, yes, once the flowers are finished, you can deadhead, and that will encourage more flowers to come, unless, of course, you want them to self-seed. Therefore, you leave the seed heads on, they fall to the ground, germinate and produce new plants. Well, what do you plant with lupins? Well, I'd recommend that you plant with other ornamental grasses around the outside, or other tall perennials like delphiniums or bearded iris. It can create a really spectacular rich border. Well, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. I have a free monthly newsletter packed with great gardening hints and tips and inspiration that you can subscribe to. See the link in the description just below for you to be able to sign up. Right, let's take a look at some more lupins question. What do you do with lupin pods after flowering? Well, first of all, wait. Allow the pods to turn brown and then remove them from the plant, and then it's easy to extract the seed. You'll know when they're ready as they will start to crack open. The pods start to crack open actually on their own, and you can see the seeds inside. If you don't remove them from the lupin plant, they will fall to the ground and eventually self-seed in the soil underneath. When do lupins die back? Well, lupins will typically die back in the winter soon as the hard frosts start to come in. The plant goes into dormancy and goes under the ground to survive. And when do lupins start to grow back? Well, lupins resprout when the soil starts to warm up in the spring, and they'll be flowering again late May or into early June. Popular question is can you divide lupins? Well, technically you can, but it isn't easy. You may not always be successful because, unlike other plants, the lupins have a really good central tap root down. If you are going to attempt it, it needs to be done in spring what you might find is your lupin can develop several crowns, and these crowns is where it makes it easy to separate and divide. Although I find the best way to grow a new lupin plant is from an established one, by either taking basal cuttings or collecting seed as well. Will lupins spread? Well, of course, any plant that's producing seed that falls onto the ground will start to spread. If you want to avoid this, I suggest you harvest the seed pods before they start to fall on the ground. Big question is, what are the common problems with lupins and how do I fix them? Well, lupins, like many plants, can get fungal disease, which is on the leaves and the stem. They're usually passed from one plant to another by rain splashing on the spores and carrying them over. You can spot this fungal problem on lupins by brown areas of tissue and orange spores on some of the leaves. The secret really is pick the the effective leaves off and dispose of them, and have a bit of a gap in between plants as well, so they're not touching to spread anything in between. But keeping an eye on them, picking them over, generally keeps them quite well. Of course, aphids is another issue. Those green flies, they suck the sap. Also, you've got black fly as well, and you can get these greyish white aphids as well, about 4 millimeters long, are found in dense groups on the undersides of leaves. The secret is to get rid of the aphids as much as possible. You can use diluted washing up liquid as a solution to spray over. Just combine probably about a teaspoonful with several litres of water to mix and spray over. It coats the skin of the aphid, makes it difficult to breathe. And of course you can encourage aphid predators like ladybirds and hoverflies, and they do pretty well by having nature stations. Nature sort of rebalances itself. You can also get a white powdery coating on the leaves, which is mildew. To really control this, you can just prune out the affected areas. It's really the damp around the plant. So if you get a lot of rain, you occasionally get this. Ladybirds have been known to eat this as well. Spacing out your plants so they're not so close together, that's one of the key things. A little bit of air moves through the plant and they should be fine. How do I stop slugs and snails from eating my lupins? Well, you can start off and grow lupins in containers and raise them up with pot feet and put a strip of copper tape around the outside, or even put them on a gravel tray to stop the slugs. They don't like crawling over gravel. You could go out at night, pop on some gloves, or use a peg or chopsticks and go slug hunting and physically remove them from the garden during the conditions that they like. Of course, they like damp conditions. What I wouldn't do is water your plants lasting at night and then not leave enough of the day for it to dry up afterwards, because those damp conditions are what slugs like. Of course, there are slug barriers and repellents as well. You can put around the base of your plant. You can use coffee grounds, eggshells, copper matting, etc., etc. There's loads of different methods to deter slugs. But there still is a debate about the effectiveness of some of these methods. You should just try it yourself and see how you're getting on with them. You'll find it's something that fits for your garden particularly well. Are lupins poisonous to humans? Well, that's a very interesting question, because it's not as straightforward as you might think, because many varieties are poisonous, but some varieties are safe enough to eat. But you really do need to make sure you know which variety you have. The poisonous varieties contain a high concentration of a toxic alkaloid called lupine. Now, the symptoms of this poisoning included dilated pupils, dizziness and confusion. But the other question is, are lupins edible? And most varieties of sweet lupins are edible. Though, as I've already mentioned, these are the poisonous ones. You better be sure you know which one you've got. And edible varieties are not very well suited to the UK climate. So if you're unsure what variety you have, don't eat it. Are lupins poisonous to pets? Very common question, this one. Lupins containing alkaloids poisonous to humans, of course, means that they're also toxic to pets as well. Although the toxicity has predominantly been recorded just in livestock, but the danger to domestic pets is also likely. Dogs and cats are not known to find the taste of lupins pleasant, which is pretty helpful, and it's unlikely to eat it, you know. But if large enough volumes are eaten, it can cause problems to pets. So if you've got pets that are chewing stuff in your garden all over the place, it's probably not the best choice for you. Well, I hope you found this video insightful. Lupins are wonderful and they create a fantastic colour and display to delight, and they have a classic effect on your borders. They really embellish and bring something special, almost like rockets exploding from the soil. And I love the foliage as well. It's such a beautiful plant. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for my channels for more content like this. And please remember to switch on your notifications so I can notify you of my latest videos.